Do you find that no matter what you do, you're still stuck with OCD? OCD behaviours like intrusive thoughts, obsessive intrusive thoughts, constant anxiety, feeling a lot of fear, guilt, shame, maybe obsessive intrusive images, obsessive compulsive behaviours, whether that be checking physically or checking mentally or having to do some sort of a behaviour in order to feel okay. You may have been in a place where you've tried everything, or you feel like you've tried everything. You've done the talk therapy, you've done the CBT, you've done the ERP, and somehow it keeps defaulting back to maybe you've had a period of time in your life where you have felt better, where you felt some relief after this. Or maybe you've done it and then you're stuck back and you're gone back into the loop. Or you've had some, change in your life where all this behaviour start coming back. And the reason that is this is not about one versus the other. This is about why you would still be stuck, why you would still be going through these emotional states. So this isn't a video about this is better than ERP or CBT, this is not my way. This is about why you could be still stuck. What is the reason? Because I've had OCD and I've spent years in therapy, and we need therapy. We all need support. I always recommend it to people to go and talk to someone, to be able to have emotional support, to have trust, to talk about your feelings, to have someone that you can really open up and share. That's fantastic. We all need that, and I'm a really big advocate for that. But that's one part of the puzzle. And there's a massive other part of the puzzle that's not being looked at, and that is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the habit pattern of the mind. It's the illogical part of the mind. It's the emotional part of the mind. And this is where all our fears, all our beliefs, all our perceptions of ourselves is stored, and the perceptions of the world is stored. And this directly is influencing the nervous system. So what does that mean? Is that no matter how much logic you do, how much understanding you do of your emotional world, of your past, of your behaviours, you might get a little bit of reassurance, you feel a bit better, you understand yourself, which is amazing, because that's the first step, is understanding why we act the way we act. It still doesn't change why. It doesn't change, even though we know the why, it doesn't change the behaviours. We still do the behaviours. We're still acting out from a place of fear, from a place of the nervous system. So this is the missing link in all the years I've spent with people showing signs and symptoms of OCD, not just with myself that have had OCD, but also with working with over 1,000 people completely heal OCD using natural, profound practices. And this wasn't something I just, discovered overnight. This was through years and years of suffering myself, but also finding another way, researching, never non-stop looking, because I knew there has to be something different. I knew there has to be another way, because I wasn't getting better. As I said, I had some momentary relief, definitely, but then I'd be back in an absolute cycle of being terrified, feeling shame, feeling constantly consumed with obsessive intrusive thoughts and having the compulsive behaviours. So it's time to really go deep into this in order for you to be able to save yourself a lifetime of suffering with this, because it can be changed. Is it easy? Well, it's much easier than living with it every day, that's for sure. But until you go directly to the nervous system, until you go directly to the subconscious mind, which you can do via the nervous system, nothing changes long term. You might get relief, but you're going to be back in the cycle again. Or you'll go from one team to the other. There is no such thing as a team. There's no such thing as OCD teams. Okay, as much as that was, told to you many times, this doesn't exist. What OCD teams are, it's just fear. that moves from one thing to another, okay? And as much as you spend effort trying to change the teams, you might get some relief from changing one of the OCD teams and it moves to another. How do I know this? Because I've talked to hundreds, thousands of people all over the world, and they're dealing with one team and then they're dealing with another team. So there's no such thing as teams. What there is fear, and the fear is being expressed in many different avenues, okay? And it's more than fear. Most people feel these emotions in your body. You feel terrified to be in your body. You feel guilty, you feel shame in your body. You're trying to get away from this feeling through the compulsive behaviours. And why wouldn't you? I get it, it's survival. I understand that completely. You're going to do the behaviours because it's so terrifying to be with these feelings because they're so big. So, until the nervous system is addressed, and how is that? Because the nervous system is like, imagine like a default switch, and it's always on in this overactive state where everything becomes like a fear response. And especially around the intrusive thoughts, it activates deep emotional wounds within the person. Feeling of, I'm an awful person, I'm a bad person, I feel bad, I feel guilty, I feel shame. This is the kind of general tone, okay? The nervous system is literally wired and set at this default. That's why as much as you do the other stuff, which is helpful, it doesn't change it because it hasn't changed the default. So what we do is we bring in specific practices that's going to learn you're going to be guided and learn how to actually change the default setting. So you start to change the default setting. As you change it, what happens is the thoughts come in, but they're not as intrusive because they don't have the same reaction. You're just like, oh my God, it's uncomfortable at times, of course. This doesn't change overnight. There's no such thing as a one-hit wonder. If you're looking for the absolute, like, I'll do this and it's gone, forget about it, okay? You gotta change it at the nervous system. So that takes a regular daily practice that starts to rewire the nervous system. This is daily. This takes discipline. This takes commitment. This takes you being really wanting to feel better in yourself. I think everyone deserves to feel like that, but you gotta do something about it different than what you're already doing. This is a practice that you do regardless of what kind of day you have. If you have a good day, you're doing it. If you have a bad day, you're doing it. You're doing it every day because what you're doing is you're rewiring the nervous system so that the default state starts to change. The default will become more regulated. What does that mean? As I said, when the intrusive thoughts come in, what makes them intrusive? What makes a thought intrusive is the reactive response. I feel terrified when I think that thought. I don't want that thought. I feel like bad about myself. I don't want that thought. That's why it's intrusive, because the mind can think anything and everything. And as long as you're living in the mind, trying to control your thoughts, you're going to be forever suffering. We all live in the mind. Most of us are so disconnected because we grew up like that to be on guard, to survive. It's just been our nature. We're not in our bodies. And until you start becoming into your body, but you do a practice first, then you can start feeling a bit okay. And it gets better and better and better. You do this consistently for at least 6 months plus, the default will become regulated. And yes, you may bounce back every now and again. That may happen, but you're not going to stay there. That's the difference. So this is the dysregulated stage. You're not going to stay there. You're going to keep doing the practice. You're going to become more and more regulated. This is the daily kind of state you're going to be in. How does that look like then when you go to do, say, like compulsive behaviours? Why do you do compulsive behaviours? You do compulsive behaviours because inside, in your system, it's not okay. Okay? So you need to do something outside yourself to make you feel okay. Soothe yourself some way. Through check-in, through affirming, through replaying, through constantly going back through the event, through reassurance. There's like so many, okay? There's not one for, specific that's suitable, whatever you do. So when the inside here, our system becomes okay, we feel safer in here, that's just a word, but we actually feel okay in our bodies, the need to find some sort of soothing starts dissipating. I don't need to go and check as much because that instinctual thing won't be there because you're coming out of survival. So I believe this is not about therapy and this is about both. It's like, how can we merge both? Okay, so I also recommend keep doing what you're doing. Yes, do all the things you want to do logically, you need support and all that, but also bring in something that's going to change this down here, going to change the reactive response. You can't change the reactive response by just talking about it, because we can talk about it all day and I can say, you know, this is just fear, you know, this is not true, you know, these are just thoughts. Does that make any logical sense to you when you're stuck in a loop of obsessive thinking? Definitely doesn't, okay? Because in that moment, what feels real is your feelings, and them feelings are telling you that this is the truth, that this is, how could you think something like that? You feel shame, you feel anxiety, you feel terrified. That's a big word. People use that because that's how they feel. So there's no denying that. In that moment, you can't deny how you feel. Does it mean the feelings are real? No, but it means they're the truth. They're not true, but they feel real. So they feel real in your system. So until these feelings start to change, and we do this with specific breath work, not a once off, a daily practice, every day for at least 6 months, will you see and feel like completely different inside. You will no longer be stuck in the obsessive loop. I'm saying dominantly. I'm not saying it won't happen now and again, normal, yeah? But you're not going to be dominantly in it. Second, you won't be dominantly feeling terrified. Third, you won't be dominantly feeling anxious. But that's with daily practice for 6 months. There's no such thing as just doing it once. So if you would like to really take this on and really be committed and disciplined to doing something that maybe you logically, you're just used to talking about, but it hasn't changed anything for you long term, then I invite you to join my self-study 6-month transformational program. This is a program where you're going to be given a weekly practice, step by step. Each week you're going to be given a guided practice to follow. And within that week, you're going to have a guided video, your guided breath work, and a guided weekly plan, and you're going to build on that each week. This is self-study. You can do this yourself based on all the content I have there, because it's very much laid out specifically, very simple but very easy to follow. You can do this along with the therapy that you're currently doing. If you need that emotional support, that's completely fine. It's about merging both together. So this is for you if you feel like you have tried so many different things and you're just exhausted from going from one thing to another. This isn't a one-hit wonder. This is not going to be like, I'm just going to know this logically, but I'm not going to do the practice. This is completely bypassing your rational logic mind, and we're going directly in through the nervous system and changing this at a deep cellular level. Then this is for you. Click the link below. You can have a call with me if you want to discuss if this is something that, first of all, you're going to be committed to doing, and it's something that you're willing to take on, and we can chat about that. So I hope you find this helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.